Hello everyone, welcome back to the Access Sport podcast. Today I've got a fantastic guest. I'm joined with Liam Barrett. How are you, Liam? You good?
Yeah, good. Thanks, James. You?
Yeah, I'm good. Well, today we're kind of going to talk about your journey. So I think if we talk about the business a little bit later on, we'll save the business for a bit later.
Yep.
But the main thing I want to touch on first is your journey.
Sure.
So with most guests, I like to start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because then it's a good place to start, isn't it? So talk to me a little bit about that beginning for you within sports. What was that like? Was there someone in your life that kind of got you into it, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, no, I think, like most young lads in England, I wanted to be a pro footballer, and that's where my head was at. And I don't really know how I got into it. I just remember locally, I wanted to be a goalkeeper. I don't know why. And then I think I played a game and then got bored. So then played outfield and I think maybe got like 10 goals or something. So then they were like, you're not playing in goal anymore. Yeah. So I think like it's not like my family was big into football. So I feel like I must have had some level of natural ability because I wasn't thinking, I'm going to be amazing at this. I just wanted to play with my mates. And then, I think as young as maybe 8, I got picked up by Norwich City. I'm an Ipswich fan now, so I normally actually leave that bit out, but I've put it out there now. And then the travelling was quite a lot. So then it made sense. I was able to go to Ipswich. So I was at Ipswich Town like from 9. They were quite good back then in the Premier League then, and then they've gone full circle, so dropping down to League One, coming back up to Premier League. And I was there until 19, so I did my scholarship there. And again, to be honest, when you're within that bubble for that long, you kind of don't really see outside of that. And it's just like, number one goal is I need to be a professional footballer. And to be honest, if you look back at Ipswich, they did historically have a lot of success of players coming through. So for me as a youngster, you could be like, he's 2 years older than me. He's playing in the first team. So if you go back, like some names back then were like, whether it's Darren Bent, Darren Ambrose, Titus Bramble, Matt Holland. So I'm not saying they're Ballon d'Or winners, but like for us, they were like, okay, these guys are local to Ipswich and they've gone on to play in the Premier League.
It's a pathway, isn't
Kieran
it?
Dyer.
Yeah.
So like there was some big players. I felt like I was on track for that. And then obviously what happens to a lot of young players, injury. So I was doing my scholarship 16 to 18. I had 4 knee operations during that time. So that was pretty heartbreaking. And I guess even you kind of feel like you're treated differently because all of a sudden you're one of the maybe future talents, and then all of a sudden you're the guy who hasn't played for over a year. So I found that quite difficult, but to be honest, the club were brilliant. So, I mean, maybe preparing me for the fact that wasn't going to be a professional career. They put me through my coaching badges. They really helped with my education. And then I think at the end of it, I think somebody maybe came in and talked about the opportunity of going to America, which, I mean, I'm a lot older than you, so that there was barely the internet back then, so it almost seemed a bit too good to be true or a bit dodgy. Like, what? You're just going to ship me to America and I'm going to play football? But I think everyone's different, and nowadays a lot of people, like we were just talking there, know about America as a route, whereas back then didn't really know anyone. It wasn't really a thing. And obviously, if you've been at a club from 9 until 19, you're not thinking, I hope I get released so I can go and play in America. Like that, it's quite a bit out there and not really on my plan. But the minute I heard about it, I was like, that seems so cool. So I was pretty set on it straight away. So I did a 3rd-year scholarship at Ipswich and then went out to America. So I lived in Chicago for 4 years. Absolutely loved it. Looking back, it's like the best 4 years of my life, and I'd never been to America before. So obviously you watch movies and things like that and you have these ideas in your head, and for me it was even better than what I expected, is all I can say. So I'm going to be biased on that, but it was just, it's the closest thing to being a professional without being one. So we would fly to some games. We did pre-season in Florida. We would train twice a day. The facilities were unreal. Play in front of thousands. You have got the opportunity of getting drafted. So obviously local to here, if you look at Jack Harrison, maybe a lot of people don't realise he played at an American college for 4 years after getting released by United. Got drafted, played for New York City, got bought by Etihad Group, firm believer that if you're good enough, you'll still find your level. I think the difficulty here in England is that it's so competitive. I'm sure you, as much as I do, know players who I would say weren't as good as other lads who have gone on to have amazing careers. When I was at Ipswich, the year below me was Nick Pope, and he got released for being too small, believe it or not.
Oh my! I mean, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
He would tower over me now, that's for sure. And obviously he's gone on to play for England. So I think the beauty with America is you're coming out with a degree, which is amazing, but also you're 22, and I think you probably have reached your peak at that point. Like if you're not going to make it at that point, you're probably not going to make it. But I think with Americans, without offending any listeners, like a lot of them like to say they're the best at everything, but when it comes to college sports, like you just can't say that anyone does it better than them.
Yeah.
And it gives them a platform where, if you look at me, like with injuries, I probably wasn't good enough to have a sustainable career. But and then when I look back, I think what was the best thing that ever happened to me in hindsight is they've got a degree that's going to set themselves up for the next stage of their career, regardless of if they go on to play anymore.
It's such a, I think, profound thing, and I think it's going back to kind of the academy days and having almost a set plan. You know, your sole. I was talking about this to someone the other day. Actually, your sole focus is on, I want to be a footballer.
Yeah,
that is it.
Yeah.
I want to be a footballer. If you've got, I think, the mentality to go forward, that's what your focus will be.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what your focus was.
Yeah.
So then having the kind of not just the culture change, but also the mindset shift to, this actually might not happen.
Yep.
Where am I going to now go? And I think that's like it's a direct, I think, reflection of life. It's sometimes you've just got to be able to adapt quickly. So talk to me about that. What was that like for you, having to adapt quickly and quickly change your mind because you're so fixated on one thing, to having to switch direction? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think it was difficult looking back, because up until 16, I'm hearing all the things that you want to hear, like, let's get you in the building, then we'll get you a pro deal. And you're like, okay, well, this, again, looks like it could happen. And I think as a young athlete, that's part of your identity. So I'm sure a lot of people knew me as, oh, that's Liam, he plays at Ipswich, because I've been there for like 11 years. Yeah. Then when you're out of that and you're like, well, I'm not Liam, he's at Ipswich, I'm just... you feel like I'm a nobody, or like that's I'm not part of that. That's not going to be my future. What I would say, and like we're partnered with the League Football Education, and the work they do is phenomenal. So, for example, my education officer at Ipswich was a guy called Paul Bartlett, and he's still been helping and mentoring me up to today. So there's a lot of great people in there, and definitely if I look back at Ipswich, I would say they're probably one of the better clubs. But also it was a different time. So. Yeah. After I left the club, it's not like you're getting phone calls, how are you doing? Like, how can we help you? Whereas nowadays, the lads are given unbelievable opportunities. I was at a career fair specifically for professional athletes the other week, and they've got Danny Rose there, Anton Ferdinand, and they've got people talking about what they should do with their finances. You know, they've got, you know, different avenues to go down, whereas that definitely wasn't the case back in the day. And it's a ruthless business. So I'm sure, like, for me, I'd been there a long while, but it's like, well, let's just replace him with the next person who's coming through. It is a conveyor belt, and it's a business. But obviously, it's hard to deal with at the time, especially because it's over quite quickly, because you go from the elation of, I'm getting a scholarship, I'm going to be a full-time footballer. And you'll know, really, with football, within that 2-year scholarship, they probably know after the first year who's getting something. So it's really like dealing with that, trying to adapt to a new environment. I mean, I'm sure looking back, the first team players would, they wouldn't treat us amazing as scholars, and you would be boot boys, so you'd be washing their boots, putting their kit out, a lot of things that probably have gone out of the game. And I think people would argue there's pros and cons to both of that.
Definitely.
Because I think it is a bit grounded, and obviously incentives. So we get to be training with them in the changing rooms, to eat with them. So there's that, and I think they've done that at Liverpool as well. And they used to have it. They separated it from the academy to the first team. Yeah. So I think it acts well as a motivator. But now I think, if I look back, if you did the things that we used to be subjected to players now, I think a lot of people would lose jobs, probably. Yeah. So, but it's just the norm back then. And I think my situation's quite difficult because I was injured for 2 years. I'd have been pretty delusional to think they're going to give me a professional contract. They did give me a third year to obviously have an opportunity to try and play. But yeah, I definitely wasn't delusional to think I'm going to have an opportunity to get a pro deal here. So I actually ended my scholarship early because I'd been put out on loan to a Step 4 team. And even back then, that was quite unusual. I remember people thinking, like, why do you want to play that low? But actually, if you fast forward, a lot of players aren't even playing that level post-scholarship. But at the time, they think, I should be at, well, if we're in the Premier League, I should be at a League 1 or League 2 club. Why? You're a 17-year-old. But what's great, again, with clubs, all clubs, if you look at Ipswich, I think they try and do a model where by the end of your scholarship, you should have played at least 50 games non-league, which is great because there's such a contrast between playing 18s football, where the result doesn't really matter, to playing with 30-year-old guys where it's all about the 3 points. And if we fast forward to American colleges, coaches often, back in the day, it'd be like, oh, well, if he's an academy scholar, he's going to be unbelievable. Now it's like, well, has he had a loan period and has he played men's football? Because when you're playing college soccer, like I was 24 23 in my final season. So are they ready to play against 23-year-olds, or have they only played amongst 17-year-olds? So it can be quite a contrast. But yeah, so I guess long story to your question is, it was a bit different for me because I had 2 years to accept the fact that I wasn't going to make it. And to be honest, mentally, I was at a point where I was actually happy to retire and not play anymore because, again, no disrespect to it, but playing non-league, having been at an academy for 11 years, so we were training once a week at a golf centre, playing in front of a man and his dog on a wet, bobbly pitch. You know, I'm like, what is this? Like, what, I've dedicated my whole life to then play that. And yeah, it just wasn't for me. So I in my head, I was like, well, I'll just go to UK uni like my sister, get in a load of debt, and maybe not play. So yeah, when someone was like, why don't you go to America? In fact, one of my friends, I hope he's not listening, but he was going, and I thought, he's not that good. Good.
Fingers crossed he
yeah,
isn't
good
listening.
still,
Isn't it?
good
Yeah.
still, but like, he'd never been in an academy. He'd never been within a semi-professional setup. So I was like, really, that's a thing. So yeah, it was all quite quick for me, and then almost seemed too good to be true. I didn't really get any great support. So when we talk about the business, that's kind of the reason why I started it. But my research was literally, Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan are quite cool. So even when I got there and it snowed for 3 months and I'd packed swimming trunks, I was like, what's this?
Yeah.
So like literally did no research. But yeah, as I said, I don't regret anything. It was an unbelievable experience. And yeah, as cliche as it is, I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And that led me to that path. I don't know how, but it was, yeah, I absolutely loved it.
And I think even for, let's say there's a personal scholarship now, someone within your business, obviously we'll touch on that later.
Yeah.
But you had to go through everything you've been through to give them maybe a little bit of advice or giving them a chance to actually make it. And I think that's a powerful thing, isn't it? That sometimes we've just got to go through these things and we've just got to stick through it.
Yeah.
Because whether you believe in God or whatever you believe in,
Yeah.
often there is a plan for us. And I think if you have a belief in that,
Yeah.
that as long as you're taking the right steps,
Yeah.
even, it could be you, sometimes if you're not motivated because you're playing in front of a man and his dog, so you going in the gym, you're thinking, well, what's the importance of this?
Yeah.
But it's those consistent habits that have led you here today, because you getting in the gym, the discipline has led you to be able to run a business. Yeah. And you can't see that, can you? Foresee it when you're younger, you're 22, you're really unsure of your direction. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure you'd thank your 22-year-old, 19-year-old self that you stuck through it. Yeah, exactly. When I look back, again, when I moved out to America at 20, I think I know everything. I'm an adult. I mean, I'm surprised I survived. I can't cook. But I survived 4 years pretty much on pasta and cereal and Subways, I think. But yeah, look, success is never a straight line. And as I said, we get players who end up becoming professionals in America. All of them will have had setbacks in their life. So if I look at 2 of the last 3 lads we've had who are now pros in America, they both didn't even get scholarships. So they're released at 15, told they're not good enough. The 2 that come to mind, both at League 2 clubs. And now, I think 2 weeks ago at time of recording, they played in front of 15,000 fans. The club they're at are averaging about 4,000 at their home games. So it's unbelievable. And even if those guys aren't playing the time this is aired, well, they've signed new deals. But the point is they've been able to have an experience of living as a pro for 5 years. And they've also got a degree that's going to set themselves up for that next stage. So I think, like you said, even when we talk about the business, is I had a really bad experience using a company that was meant to help me get out to America. But then if I look back at it, if I'd have had a brilliant experience, I probably wouldn't be sat here running my own business that offers that services. Wow. So yeah, it was really powerful for us. And again, without jumping too far ahead, me and 3 of my colleagues all used companies and had bad experiences. So when we moved back and realised we were too old and slow to carry on playing ourselves, or maybe the mind worked, but the legs not so much, we were like, there's no way we can be any worse than these guys who were doing it. And if I look back, kind of funny is those guys, none of them had actually done it themselves. So I think a big thing that speaks volumes is like, have you walked that path yourself? Exactly. Like, and it blows my mind. Like, how can you tell me about the American college system if you've never even been to America on a college system? But I think that's how primitive the market was back then. Whereas now there's a lot of different companies and people that have been through the process. But at the time, it was super stressful. And that's, I think, what makes you unique, the fact that you have been there. Because as you say, taking advice off someone who's never walked the walk is really difficult. Yeah. No matter what industry you're in, you're like, why are you telling me what that experience is like? Because you can describe it to the smallest detail because you've done it. Yeah. So I think for you, especially anyone who's, looking for this type of opportunity and they're seeing this podcast,
Yeah.
they can see that you've walked the walk, you've been through it, you've come out the other side. And as you say, if you didn't have that bad experience with the company that you went out with, which we're going to touch on now,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have been not only the man you are today, but also the business owner that you are.
Yeah, exactly. And with America, to go to America, I mean, I was a little bit older than most people, 18, that is a massive step.
Oh.
And obviously we're going to be biased and say, look, it was the best experience we ever had, but it's also not for everybody. And like looking back at even a younger me who'd never been to America, that's a big, brave decision to say, well, actually, the comfort zone would be going to a UK uni apprenticeship work. I'm going to put myself out of that comfort zone, move to a country I've never been to, end up at a school in a state that I won't know what it's going to be until I start the process, leave my family and friends and do that. So I think you do need to be a certain type of person, and I've got huge admiration for all the the athletes that we work with that want to do that. But it's like anything, it's kind of risk and reward, because we've never had anyone go out to America for 4 years and go, use Ipswich example, I wish I'd have stayed in Ipswich for 4 years. And one thing I always found is when I used to come back is you almost like feel like a celebrity because, oh, how's America? But and then you ask my mates, what have you been up to? Same old. It's like things don't change. Family and friends are still there. And again, like year one, I found it quite difficult being away from, I'm not saying this is all, rose tinted glasses, but then after a while, happily not see friends for a year at a time. It's fine. It's like anything. If they're actual good friends and family, it's like within a second, it's straight back to where you are. And look, the time goes quick. I feel like I was boarding my plane for the first time going out there yesterday, and it was over 15 years ago. So still boring people talking about it to today. But again, it's only because, we had such a good time.
And I think as well, like the whole process of you taking that step away from your family.
Yeah.
I think sometimes what we think is we think everyone's going to be moving on.
Yeah.
Like 20, that's when you went
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
20 is like an age where most people are still in uni.
Yeah.
Most people are probably still partying.
Yeah.
So you might, don't know whether you're a big party yourself, but I mean, at 20, most people are.
Yeah.
So you think, oh God, when I come back, all the party's going to be gone.
Yeah.
But your mates are still partying when you get back.
Yeah.
So I think it's a case of like, as you say, everyone's staying still.
Yeah.
So go and experience something new.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like it, you've experienced it so that like you then know when you come back, you appreciate Ipswich more. Or you appreciate home more.
England, we'll call England more.
England more, yeah. So you appreciate what you already had, or you go, do you know what? I actually prefer living in America.
Yeah.
So then you know, but if you don't try, you don't see, do you?
Yeah, and to be honest, one thing that I loved about America is I'm not a party goer, but then I'd always been disciplined within an academy environment. So I think if anyone is listening and they're serious about their sport, America will give you that. I mean, you can't drink until you're 21 anyway. So for most of our athletes going at 18, unless you're McLovin and getting that fake ID out, you're not going to be drinking out there. I hate to break it to you. But yeah, even like kind of funny is that even when I was 21, I wouldn't have been able to drink because they do month, day, year, and we do day, month, year. And my birthday is 12th of January. So for another 11 months afterwards, it would still look like I'm 20.
Oh my God.
So even if I was wanting to get out, I still need a fake ID, even though I was 21.
Yeah.
But I think, look, we can talk about it, but like if you talk it, I'll try and call it football, soccer. I know, apologies, football. But then you think, American football, the season out there is quite short. So it's only a full sport. So it's August till November time.
Yeah.
So obviously when you're training every day and you're playing twice a week, you're not really thinking I'm going to be going out partying. I think a lot of people would do that more in the spring semester when you're not in season. So balance your partying with your football a little bit there as well.
And let's touch now on the company that you went out there with, because obviously that's an experience that's obviously led you to start your own business and to be who you are now.
Yeah.
But talk me through that, because you go into a new country, it is completely foreign. You don't know, the culture. I'm sure there's a big culture shock. So that was the beginning thing. So then to have the stress of having to do most of the legwork yourself, not just with the football, but with also your scholarship and everything to do with it. Talk me through that. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I just remember it being really tough and stressful. And as I said, again, at the time, when somebody's talking about America and all these exciting things, you're very much at that, I want to do it. I remember saying to my mum, 100% want to do it. And I think wrongly, the company as well, when they said, we'd like to work with you, you've got 24 hours to make a decision. Like, it's crazy. Like, this is a massive decision and it's not an overnight decision. So like the way we work, which we can talk about in a bit, is we only tend to work with about 50 players per sport per year. And the reason we've got that model is because me and my colleagues went through companies that were high volume and we could never get hold of anyone. And you just feel like like you're a number in the process.
Yeah.
So we felt like if I have that selective model, like I would literally be able to tell you the name of every single athlete that we've worked with and their parents' name, because we keep in constant communication. And we've placed over 3,000 athletes now. So I think that was a key difference for us, and that kind of shaped how we wanted to operate. And I'm not saying, oh, cry me a river. Like I lived in Chicago for 4 years, went to a school that was $200,000 and came out debt free. But after I went out there, I never heard of them again. And there was a lot of times when I would have liked help. So in America, what's quite common now is you can transfer. So if you think of it purely from a sporting perspective, 4 years is a long while. Well, look, obviously Salah and Van Dijk are just getting a 2-year deal. Like 4 years is a long while, right? So it's quite common after a couple of years, if you are doing well, could we move you to an even better team? If you're looking at it purely from a football perspective, then obviously you might get even better degree from a better education institution as well. So after a couple of years when I was out there, I would have liked to move schools. And the company I went through just ignored me. They were like, no, we got you out there. We're not going to help you, even though initially they'd said they would. And then I remember at the time, I think I won a few awards, and they were like, oh, can we put that on the website? I was like, oh, what? Okay, so you don't want to help me with what I need, but you want to kind of sing and dance about the achievements that I'm having. So yeah, it was really frustrating. I actually had to take a gap year. So the reason I went out at 20 was because the year I was meant to go out, they forgot to tell me about the entrance exam. So I literally have got an email where a coach has said, what did you get on the entrance exam? And I've gone back and go, what's that? And this was like right before I'm meant to be heading out. And then in America, they also have what's called an eligibility center to prove that you've never been a professional, because it has to be strictly amateur.
Right, okay.
Because I had no guidance, I'd put, yeah, I'm paid by Ipswich, I'm full time. They then said, oh, you must be a professional, you can't go. So that ruled me out of over 1,000 schools. So that was also stressful. So then, I had to take a gap year. That was when I went and played Step 4 here in the UK, which there was benefits. I saved up a bit of money. I was able to play men's football, but I did feel like that was a year of my life wasted when I could have already been in the system. It was just all of these things that I was like, this is so frustrating. And I mean, now there's so much online. I mean, maybe ChatGPT could tell you a lot about the process, tell me about it. And it probably would tell you. But back then, I mean, remember the dial-up internet on AOL, there wasn't Wikipedia, there wasn't anything. There's just nowhere to research, nobody to speak about, because again, I didn't really know anyone who'd done it before. Yeah. So you're really making a leap of faith. Whereas now, again, like for us, even if you look at Access, we've placed over 30 athletes from Access, in recent years since we've been working with you guys. And so there's other people we can put you in touch with. We've placed athletes at pretty much all of the centres. So this afternoon I'm at Tranmere. Well, I can go, well, look, here's one of the players we sent out last year who came on tour with us. And I think that's a lot more relatable. So often when I put a picture up of me playing, they're like, what, that's you? No, I did actually play. I couldn't grow a beard at the time, but I could, that is me, believe it or not. Whereas if they can go, oh, what? James was here last year, now he's playing in America. They might go, well, actually, I'm as good as James. Do you know what I mean? It's somebody who's relatable to.
Exactly.
I never had that. So we definitely try and provide 24/7, 365 support for all of our athletes. And all of our team have been through the process ourselves. Again, I think we're talking about field hockey and how you played that. We work across a variety of sports. I could place a field hockey athlete into American college, but that's not my expertise. So we'll have somebody who's actually played at the highest level who's leading that. Because again, you go on some websites and they'll have 10-pin bowling, air rifle shooting, fencing. It's like, wait, have you actually got any expertise in that area? So I think we're kind of bespoke in that. I feel like we're big enough in that we're sending almost 400 or 500 athletes a year, but still able to provide that bespoke service because we only offer 50 places per sport. And I think, to be honest, the way we work with Access was kind of Gary liked that model, and we've worked really well in the past with the Norwich and Lowestoft sites because we're based in Suffolk. So it's been great working with Access, and it's just kind of organically developed, because I think at the heart of everything that all of us do is trying to provide opportunities that help enrich and better the students' lives. And that's at the core of it. Mm-hmm. The fact that it's a business it is relevant, but I feel like the business will do well if you take care of that and you put the learners at the forefront of that. Because most of the players that we now get nowadays, or athletes, are just from referrals from ones that we've done in the past, So again, firm believer, if you put the hard work in, you'll get the benefits from it in the long run.
That's the beauty, I think, as well of your business model, but also not just your business model, because as we spoke about before, there's a lot of businesses that you say they don't really specialize in things. Yeah. The fact that you've got bespoke people for all different parts of the industry. Yeah. is really important because, like we said before, that you're not really going to want to take advice off someone who's not walked the walk. You
No.
say field hockey, you're probably not going to take the lead on that because
No.
you've not played it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, for me, I think that's like, if I was maybe wanting to get a scholarship with field hockey in America,
Yeah.
that's something I would look for because you want to resonate with the company. It's like sporting brands or whatever we wear.
Yeah.
Often it's because either we've watched an advert and we go, do you know what? I really like that advert, especially like Nike.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, you're a sponsor there,
Yeah.
but I notice with Nike, when I watch it, it's like quite a cinematic storytelling type advert
Yeah.
with a good story that I resonate with, and the characters happen to be wearing Nike.
Yeah.
And then I go, well, I want to be that character, so I'll wear some Nike. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the same sort of thing with you, people resonating with your ethos and what you stand for is imperative. And I think nowadays with social media, I think people are missing out on that. We want that quick gratification of either money or whatever it may be, but you're focusing on providing as the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, and we go even granular to that. Like even with like football, we do break that into men's football and women's football. Obviously, recognizing how different that landscape is. So we've got, Ellie and Freya who head up our women's program because again, they're going to be more relatable, having done it themselves, than even men's football. So, we find that approach works really well. And I said, the core to us is just providing that personal service. And it's kind of crazy because not only would we be with an athlete, so we work with some athletes from 15, and then say they graduate at 22. In America, so that's a 7-year journey, but then also we can help with professional playing opportunities. Some of our athletes go on to play in Australia afterwards, so you could do that for 3 years. So we could literally be working with someone from 15 to 25 on a 10-year journey, which could encompass living in 2 different countries or different states, which is super rewarding for us as well. So
it's a massive experience, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had plenty that have gone on and got married now and had kids.
Wow.
And
outing.
Yeah.
Wow, God.
Yeah, and we've had some that have gone on to become head coaches. And so I think, again, long term, when you look back from where we started, that's so cool. And I don't know if we did the maths on it, but like how many were married and got kids. And which is cool because you're playing a really small part in shaping people's lives.
Changing
and their kids' lives and their grandkids' lives. It's really exciting. And there's elements of any business that are stressful because you've got to put hard work in to get the right outcome, but definitely that's a super rewarding part of this. As the same for Access, like to see, well, this student's gone on to do this or this. And as I said, I mean, like we are actually a UCAS registered centre, so we're not anti-UK unis. We always say, give yourself as many options as possible, and if America is included within that, great, and then just pick the one that's best for you. I think the regret I would have had looking back is I just didn't know about it. So again, us being at Tranmere this afternoon or going around other Access sites is give them the information, and then it's up to them what they want to do with that. So as I said, everyone's different.
And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Providing us enough information about things, because I didn't go to uni. That was a personal decision. Yeah. I felt that for kind of where I wanted to go, it just wasn't right for me.
Yeah.
But if you are going into uni, I remember when I was finishing sixth form, there's a lot of talk about UCAS points, and all this type of thing. It flew over my head because I knew that was not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But if I was, information is so important.
Yeah.
Having a tutor or someone like yourself coming to you and saying, right, listen, this is what you need.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'd be asking ChatGPT all the time to tell me, because it's, and especially years ago when ChatGPT wasn't a thing, it's a minefield. It really is, because it's so complicated, not just in your country, but then having to go to another country.
Yeah.
It's massive. And I think the role that you play in these young adult lives is massive, because, as you say, it shapes their lives, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and to be honest, the flip on it is, like, we'll also be super realistic with somebody. So it's quite easy to Google and go, oh, Stanford looks really good, I'd like to play there. So would millions of other people. Yeah. And maybe the level you're at, and academically where you're at, that's not going to be feasible. So again, what I'll always say to everyone is it's a 4-year journey. And another thing is, every player that we've had go professional has started at a university and finished at a different one. So again, these type of things hopefully will resonate, because if you look at the American national team on football, not great. I think they lost to Panama recently. But for those of you who've not been there are good players there. And from the age of 15, all they will be thinking about is, I want to get a scholarship. And again, maybe stereotype, you say American parents are pushy. I would be pushy if you're going to get me a full scholarship so I'm not in debt you know, right? So I wish the UK system had it with that same level of scholarship. But like, if you're pretty good at football and kind of serious about it, and I'm your parent, and I know that you could get education for free, of course I'm going to push you to do that. So the American players will be doing camps constantly, entering tournaments, showcases. So it's almost like an element, I was guilty of it, being quite arrogant to be like, I've played at Ipswich, I've got good grades, I'm just going to pick where I want to go. You know, reality check, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And also there's an element of luck. So I was a forward. Unless that school needs a forward the year you're going out, they're not going to have scholarship for it.
Wow.
So again, a lot of people be like, I like these schools.
So it's position based, is it?
For team sports,
right,
yeah, because like if they've got, and again, without boring everyone too much, like in Division 1 in America, as of this year, so rules change constantly as well, you're only allowed 28 players. Well, 3 goalkeepers, so you're down to 25. It's basically 2 players per position. So it's super competitive. So if you go there, you might not even play, because if you're looking at the top schools, a lot of those players are going on to become professionals. So are you good enough as a 17-year-old to push out a 22-year-old who's about to go and play in the MLS? Maybe not.
Unless you're Lamine Yamal, aren't you?
Well, yeah, you probably skipped that, I reckon, for him. I don't know if you saw that guy, Calvin Sullivan, as well.
No.
So he's 14 and he's got an MLS contract already.
You're 14?
Yeah, he's played. Yeah,
my God.
I think he's at Philadelphia, but they're few and far between. But again, a lot of lads will go, oh, could I get drafted before I graduate? I don't know. Are you like the next generational talent that's coming out of England? I don't know. So, but this is a good thing, because what I'm getting at is that the standard is good. Like the team I was at, the college team, I would say we would have beaten the Step 4 team I was at in England, and we had a scholar from Man U, a scholar from Derby, a scholar from Leicester.
Yeah. So it's not just American, it's people from the UK.
Oh, there's thousands of like international athletes out there, which again I think speaks volumes to it. But without jumping around too much, we do an annual tour to Vegas. I know you guys at Access are super fortunate. Maybe they don't realise at the time, but definitely when they look back, wow, we got to go to all these places.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
I think I went to a bridge when I was at high school. It was like a field day, like a day trip when I was at school. And these kids are going Spain, then America, which is incredible. But yeah, we ourselves are a tour operator, and we do a showcase event in Vegas each year. A couple of the guys from Access, few sites came, one from Tranmere this year, and that tournament, there's 900 teams, 250 college coaches, and we simulate living life as a college athlete before you get there. And it's not all going to be amazing. Like, guess what? You're not staying at the Bellagio or Caesar's Palace, that's for sure, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd be like, oh, the accommodation wasn't what I thought. Well, that's better than what you'll be staying at in college, by the way. So just to give you a bit of a reality check, or maybe you are having to have Subway 2 days in a row between tournaments. So you've got to be flexible with things. But yeah, like this year, the guys, or particularly the guys, not so much the girls, meet at the airport. We're going to win this tournament. Oh, when you're 6-0 down in the quarterfinals, like how do you feel about that to an American team, right? So maybe I open my eyes. Maybe the level's better than what I thought. So again, going back to the informational piece, that tour is just, again, open their eyes to what it will be like when they get out there.
I think as well, the main, and obviously you can touch on this more than me, but I think the main character trait that you can see when a player is going to take that step from the scholarship playing in college to a professional team, whether it be MLS, Premier League, Serie A, French League, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is mentality, and it's the grit, and it's to be able to go, then even if they're 3-0 down, you give them the ball, and even if they were 3-0 up, they behave the exact same.
Yeah.
And I think that's the maturity level that sometimes you miss out on with a lot of young players. They don't have that. They're too, as you say, you get off a plane and you think, oh, we're going to win this.
Yeah.
But it's a good mentality to have. We're going to win this. But people get carried away with that. And you disrespect the other team.
Yeah.
I know. I've followed Liverpool, and sometimes we lost to Chelsea the other week because I think we felt it was very done. We've won the Premier League now, so there's not as much to fight for.
Yeah.
But that grit to be able to push through.
Yeah.
Touch on that. What's that like? You've obviously seen it in a lot of youngsters.
Yeah, look, I'm an Ipswich fan. We got a draw against Everton last week, so that was big news for us. We're already down, but we're still fighting. It's a little bit different to you guys. But yeah, I think you're so right about that. And we talked about earlier, when I look back at the guys who have gone on to have long, sustainable professional careers, and I look back at the time, and I'm thinking they didn't stand out. They didn't have more access to facilities or training or anything, but definitely like this unreal level of confidence, I think, in their own ability and resilience to adversity, like you're saying, because a lot of people, when the chips are down, they'll just go ahead with that. But who wants to really kind of roll their sleeves up and be that, I guess, hold themselves to the same level of standards regardless of what's going on around them. So yeah, I think that's so true. And again, what I loved about college sports is, and again, I'm not here to put down UK unis, but a lot of my friends who went, I can only go off their experiences that I've heard about. It is a lot about, well, where are we going to be drinking after the game? Or there is that social aspect. Whereas in America, this is a business. Like college sports is a multi-billion-dollar annual business, and coaches get sacked if they're not producing. So you will be treated like a professional, and also you're getting scholarship to be at that school. So again, we can talk about it, but like one thing, again, another rule change, as of recently, you can actually earn money as a college athlete as well. So
Yeah.
that's huge. And you may or may not have seen the news. There was a quarterback at Vanderbilt, and he sued the NCAA because I don't know how much money he's getting, but maybe like $150,000 a year through sponsorship and thing. And he's like, Christ. I want to play for one more year.
And how old's he?
So he must be like 19, 20.
Jesus,
an extreme example, Caitlin Clark is a basketball player who played at Iowa, and I think she signed like a $20 million Nike deal while she was still at college. So
yeah, well, Caitlin Clark, she's
a generational talent.
Exactly. Yeah. But, you know, it's the same thing with like, I saw stuff about Bronny James.
Yeah.
He was on, I heard like $2 million a year at college. Or
Livy
Dunn. Or Livy Dunn, you know, she's now, I think she's 23 maybe, but she's still in college.
Yeah.
So to the onlooker, like from maybe the UK lens, you think it's a bit weird, a bit old to still be in a senior year.
Yeah.
But it's a business, and she's making like a lot of money from.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because the real winner was always the college and the NCAA, because if you look at like LSU, if they're selling out 80,000 seater every week and they're charging $50 a ticket, and then they're selling the merchandise with your name on the back, by the way, and then they go, you haven't got to pay for tuition, food and housing. You're like, hang on a minute, I've been helping you fill out this stadium for 4 years. I want a bit of the pie as well. And that's difficult, because imagine if you were playing in front of 80,000 for 4 years and then you did your cruciate and you couldn't get drafted, and then there's kind of like nothing for you to show. So I think the thing that has accelerated that is social media. So, I mean, if you're listening, like, I better get loads of followers. Well, yeah, if you've got like 1 million followers, quite extreme, but like you can now get sponsored as adverts, whereas in the past that would have been illegal, to the point where you could have been deducted eligibility. I probably watched too much Netflix, but there's like untold stories you may or may not have seen on there. There's one about Johnny Mantle, I think his name is, and he was at Texas, and he got done because they would leave like American footballs in a hotel room, tell him the name, the number, and he would go in and sign them, and then like open the safe and there'd be 20 grand in there, like, because that was illegal back then. And so yeah, but now you can earn, and you don't have to do shifty things like that. So yeah, it's an ever evolving landscape, and the lines between being a pro and amateur are just they're really blurred nowadays.
And I mean, we speak about 80,000 people in stadiums, which I think some of them are bigger than Premier League stadiums, especially with the American football. Yeah. The basketball. Yeah. I know it's massive. I had an old hockey coach he basically just watched college basketball. Yeah. Which because I didn't really know too much about it. I thought, that's weird. Why are you watching college when the NBA is right there? But it's massive. You know, you see LeBron, and obviously I know his son played in college basketball, but you see a lot of celebrities now coming to watch these like state championship finals. Yeah. And you think, God, this is like, because it's the prospects. Yeah. You know, I know Zion Williamson, who plays for the Pelicans. I mean, he was a massive talent for Duke. Yeah. I mean, these players are like, they're serious. Because in America, I think there's, I don't know whether it's a genetic thing or whatever, but they all just seem really athletically gifted.
Yeah, I think because they've got access to so many different sports from a young age. That's also the flip of it, is why there's often a lot of demand for international. So if you're like a footballer in England and you've only played football from 3 until 18, you probably have got better knowledge and technique than someone who's played 5 sports until 13 and then gone into one. But yeah, if you look at basketball in particular, I think it makes up 70% of college sport revenue per year. It's that big. And they do something each year called March Madness, which everyone does, like sweepstakes on who's going to win. So like everybody gets fully engrossed in it. But even like the school I was at, to bore you with another story, is that Anthony Davis So he went to the high school across the university I went to, and they didn't have a basketball court. So every evening, and I used to work the gym in the evenings, he would come in on his own and train for about 4 hours on his own.
Really?
But I'd always remember him because he had a unibrow, and even back then, and be like 6'7".
I'm sure it was even worse back then.
Oh yeah,
just morphed into just one brow.
Yeah. Now he's a multi-millionaire. He can trim that thing and look after it. But obviously, it always stuck in my mind. And I said to someone, "Who's that kid?" And they're like, "He is gonna be big time." And you'd have college coaches come in to watch him just practice on his own in there. And
it is big time. I mean, the fact that you got to see that as well. I mean,
he was like 15 at the time. And
how big was he then? Because he's what, 6'11"?
I'm 6'3", and he was way taller than me then. But that's like incredible. But the reason why I use him as an example is he doesn't get there by luck, and he doesn't get there because he's 6'7". You know, Peter Crouch isn't playing in the NBA. You know, with all of these people, he's the one who on his own is deciding. I mean, he probably got told like, you've got a good chance of making it, but he's the one doing the 3-4 hours. And then you see him win gold medals at the Olympics, playing with LeBron at Lakers.
Championships.
So even if you've got God-given talent, like to your point, he's got the character, determination, resilience to make sure. I think he bought his mum a Bentley with his first paycheck, but but he got the rewards for the hours that he was willing to sacrifice. But that's kind of my go-to story of like a glimpse of being that close to somebody who's gone on to be an NBA talent.
Definitely. I mean, we look at the likes of like Kobe Bryant, and I know he's kind of coined this Mamba mentality type thing, but it is so true. It's like, if you're not willing to put in that work when no one's looking, then you're not going to be able to. I mean, I've seen things like stuff even about like Picasso. He had like 100,000 pieces, and only like 0.07% of them are famous. So he made that many pieces that no one really cared about. But then his fortune come off that 0.7%. So it's the same thing with like Curry, greatest shooter ever. Ridiculously good. I've seen him live. He's unbelievable. But he shoots like thousands of shots a day.
Well, I think Jordan said like, I've missed more shots than I've taken.
Exactly, but then like, you see the ones that I do take. He said something like, maybe it's my own fault. The fact that, you know, you've seen these, you think that every shot is a game-winning shot, and it's not. I mean, we look at Jordan. He's had 2 3-peats, but besides the 2 3-peats, he's been bounced in the playoffs. So
year after year,
we forget about that. Because there's 2 3-peats there, and I think that's the social media era. You know, everything's very glorified.
Agree.
So talk to me a little bit about how maybe you kind of talk to your scholars when they're going out there, how they can kind of combat against that, because comparison's the thief of all joy, really. And surely there's a lot of talent out there that they can very easily compare themselves to. So what's that like for them?
So I think that's why the tour can be helpful, to see what levels you're at. But you see it even at the Premier League, right? Look at, I don't know, Darwin Núñez, right? Is he getting 40 goals a year for Benfica? It's quite different to do that in a different country, different style, and get kind of used to that. And some people do hit the ground running and some people don't, and it takes time to get accustomed to that. But again, as cliche as it is with like the American dream, you could start at the worst community college in America in terms of your sport and end up a Division 1 full ride athlete. Like, that's 4 years. Obviously, you need some level of talent, but how you apply yourself, you're going to get rewarded for it. So again, you might use maybe year 1 or 2 to transition and use that time to get used to it and understand the system, your skill set, and how you can kind of shine, and then you can kick on from that. Freya, who works in our head of women's soccer, she went to a Division 1 program and actually hardly played the first 2 years because she found it quite difficult to accustom to the level of fitness, the style of play, very different to over here. Years 3 and 4, she was captain and like on a full ride, and then actually went and played full time afterwards.
What a journey.
So what an incredible journey, which I'm sure if she looks back, she would have really had to work hard at. But again, maybe she'd have done better to go to maybe not as strong a team to begin with, and while she's learning, actually learn on the job, be playing for 2 years, and then be even more better equipped to play at that level.
But would she have that? Would she have had that drive to be able to?
I think so. I mean, again, Netflix. I'm not sponsored by Netflix, but there's a thing on there called Last Chance.
Maybe
right? Yeah, we're sponsored by Prime now, so maybe.
Well, there we go.
Last Chance U, and that's about following community colleges. And what you'd see from there is still good facilities, coaches, players playing in front of a lot of people. But the underlying selfish factor is, I want to do as well as I can so I can get the best school afterwards. So there's always that mentality. And if you look talking about football, there's over 2,000 schools in America that have soccer programs. So yeah, if you can do well and you've got aspirations to push yourself, then you can play even higher level. We've had Access players do that. So we had a guy called Ant Cox, went to a school in Nebraska, did amazingly well for 2 years. We then transferred him to a Division 1 in South Carolina where he was paying nothing, and he's graduated a Division 1 player. I think he was actually, this is, again, maybe I'm oversharing, but he was like dating Evander Holyfield's daughter while he was out there.
You're joking.
Yeah. So he went from like small town in Suffolk to then like being in LA mansion. So it's,
yeah, I mean, imagine that.
yeah, it's
Jesus.
crazy the experience that you can go through. But yeah, we've already got loads of success stories from Access where guys have done well for 2 years and then we've got them a move and they've kicked on to an even better level. Or they either find a boyfriend or girlfriend and like, oh no, actually I'm happy where I am here for the 4 years. You know, life changes, you never know what happens. And in an ideal world, they do go somewhere for 4 years, love it, come out as close to debt-free as possible, get a degree. But I think there's a lot of reassurance to know that we're there for the whole 4 years and whatever you need, because also in football, like 4 years as a coach is quite a long while as well. I actually had 4 coaches in 4 years, which was not great. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move. Again, another story, but I'll keep it real short, is that one year we didn't have a coach because he just left. And there was a guy called Dennis Hamlet, and he was the Chicago Fire coach in the MLS. He's got sacked. And then one of my teammates worked in an Irish bar and was basically convinced him to be our coach for the short season while he was on a non-compete. He couldn't go to another MLS team. So at the time they had, I'm probably showing my age, but like Carlos Blanco, who was playing for Mexico, Brian McBride, some high-profile players, and then he was coaching us. And then afterwards, he went to New York Red Bulls. So we literally had him for a 3-month period. So it is pretty crazy. But yeah, things change, right? Or the school might go through changes, or there might not be. Scholarship can change as well. Particularly during COVID, we saw some schools that came under a lot of pressure. So maybe their costs go up. So then maybe your costs go up. So then maybe we have to move you as well. So I think, yeah, it's a good thing for parents to know that we're not just, like my experience, sending them to America and then you never hear from us again.
That's really powerful, isn't it? Because I think as a parent, I mean, obviously I'm not a parent, but like if I was in the future, I think it's a worry, isn't it, when your child's jetting off to a completely different country, especially a country as big as America.
Yeah.
You know, it takes longer to travel across that country than it does for us to travel to like parts of Europe. You know what I mean? Just from state to state.
Yeah.
So that's how big it is.
Yeah. Some of my old teammates are American, like, oh, do you see XYZ from your team? And it's like, no, he's an hour away. And they're like, that's on your doorstep. Like they can't get their head around it. Like I was in Illinois. Some of our games still in Illinois, a 4-hour drive. But obviously, like,
and they think that's close.
But like, I'm in Ipswich. That'll be 4 hours from here in Liverpool to Ipswich, right?
Which is
so
like a dream.
You're like, oh, that's quite a long drive. So yeah, it's a completely different mentality. But every state's almost like a different country.
Because they've got their own culture, their own lingo. I mean, I suppose that's kind of like the UK, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, true. Yeah, but not as much a literal divide on things, but. Yeah, like by county, it is quite different, right?
I always think that like Americans think that all of England sound the exact same.
Yeah, they do, and then I think they're in shock.
Yeah, so like when we like, I don't know, parts of Liverpool may not want to be associated with like London or like Manchester.
Yeah,
they don't get that. They think we all sound like the Queen's English.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah,
and I saw this video and these like girls are asking this lad to say like, "Good evening, governor." If someone asked me that, I'd go, "What?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be a bit confused, like, because that doesn't... But it's the same sort of thing. I think we do it when we do an American accent, we do a very general one.
Yeah.
But I suppose you've got to go there.
Yeah, when I was out there, people were like, where are you from in America, in England? And by the 4th year, I'd just say London. Because it's just easier to deal with than go, I'm in Ipswich, it's 90 minutes away. You know, like, just, oh, and then they'll be like, do you know the Queen? Yeah, I know the Queen. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous, the questions that you'd get. So in the end, but it's funny because... you do have to adapt to things. So, like, for example, with water, if you said water, like, you're not going to, they'll be like,
it's
what?
Water.
Yeah, so you literally, I remember the first time I went with my wife and I was like, oh, I could get some water. And she, like, looked at me. She's like, what was that? And it's like, all right, well, you order and don't get served. Or, like, you know, no tomatoes rather than no tomato. Like,
I mean, surely they can.
No, they can't, though. Like, well,
really?
Again, I'm probably stereotyping, but, like, my experience are 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be the case. So I do get guilty of, like, kind of sinking back into Americanisms when I'm out there. And definitely when I'm on calls with American coaches, I can hear my wife like, shut the door. I can't deal with your American twang that you seem to adapt when you're on calls with coaches. So
I went to New York for my 18th.
Oh, wow.
So a couple of years ago now, and I I remember going into like this like really nice, like it was called Ollie and Steen. It's near Bryant Park. It was this lovely cafe.
Yeah.
And I ordered water and I expected them because I thought, I was with my mum and I said, I'm not gonna succumb to the, I'm saying water. And they gave me water.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought they'd give me something else, but like,
Okay. One for one in terms of
I think it was
experiences.
maybe because it was New York.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
New York's quite, I don't know. I'd compare New York to Liverpool.
Right, yeah,
I think they're quite similar. But not that they understand. I'm not
it's
really
quite
a thick scouser,
multicultural
like, but
place as well. Yeah,
yeah, it is. So I think either that or they just heard war and they just thought, yeah, I think they're probably tired. But
Yeah.
no, it's a massive culture shock, I think, for a lot of people. And the fact that the parents have then got a place to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're still, they know that their child, even though they might be 20, they're still their kids. I think you are still a kid at 20, 21, 22. You're still learning.
Yeah.
And you're still getting out there in the world. So the fact that they've got a support network for that,
Yeah.
I think is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, the thing is as well, what is encouraging for us is when we started years ago, people would leave it so late. So we're sitting here now in May and athletes would be like, I want to go out this August. And he'd be like, you've left it too late and they can't get their head around it. It's like, yeah, like the scholarships are gone. Like you've missed that bus. You're going to have to go the following year. So you can take a gap year normally. So you've got 5 years from when you finish high school to compete for 4 years in America. They have brought in other rules, but that's for another time. But yeah, in terms of like understanding when to start the process, now a lot of athletes, as I said, are working with us from 15. You can legally be recruited to June 2 years in advance of you going. So if you're listening to this and you finish your BTEC or A levels in 2027, as of June 2025, coaches can legally recruit you. And if you're an American, you are going to start getting recruited. So again, as an international, you probably overthink, like we'll get kids who are like, oh, well, I'll come back to that next year. Okay, well, you might have missed out on quite a lot of scholarships by then. So again, the earlier we can educate people on it, at least they know that, okay, maybe I need to start this process. So if you were wanting to go out in 2027, ideally you want to be committed by the end of 2026. And that changes by sport. So if you're a golfer and they've only got a team of 10 golfers, they're only graduating 2, they might, like we've got golfers that are committed for 2026 already now. So it's definitely one about there's benefits to starting that process earlier.
And that's important, isn't it? To be able to start the process early.
Yeah.
So that's like I think a big thing. I think probably the difference between the UK maybe to the US, because people can maybe cut it closer because it could be a local university, but the fact that it's such a long way away, you've got to make sure that you're planning in advance. So hopefully anyone who's listening, who's hearing about that, who may be with access, who's finishing the college courses, that's obviously something they're going to do. So 2027, did you say, for the next?
Well, look, if it all varies. Like we're partnered with the LFE, so like we signed a championship level player yesterday, and he is looking to get out this August. But obviously, the more elite you are, you can probably get away with leaving it a bit later. But he still might have got better deals had he started a year before. But yeah, look, we've had great success across the different access sites, particularly with Norwich, Lowestoft, Farsley, and Tranmere. So a lot of these centres have had us in at the start of their first year of the BTEC or A-level program, and therefore they're fully aware of it come year 2. So it's already on the radar. I'm not saying, oh, you definitely need to start now, but at least you've got that on your radar and you start thinking about it, because again, it's not a decision you should just make on a whim or make overnight.
No, you need some time to think, because it's as you say, like, I mean, it's changed a lot of people's lives. So and you mentioned obviously when you went out with that company, they were very like overnight, and I mean, overnight decision. It's not something that you make overnight. It needs to be something that you have a lot of thought about. Yeah. But also have, I think, the courage to just take that leap. Yeah. Because if you compare it, so like if I go UK uni, like my sister, I pick the 5 schools I want to go to, I get the UCAS points I need, I apply, I get in 10 grand's worth of tuition debt, food and housing, 3 years. I know exactly what I'm signing myself up for. We're here going, oh, by the way, James, we know you'll be in America, but we don't know what state, what team, what the scholarship will look like, who your coach will be. So it is crazy, but also, look, we're not here to say, the way we work isn't, oh, by the way, James, you're going to Nebraska, this is the school. It's about presenting options to you and then working with you to figure out what would be a good fit. And academics can be a key point. If you say, I want to do law, medicine, dentistry, that's quite different to the UK market. Whereas, again, looking back, I just picked business because someone said, well, it will relate to anything when you come out the other end. Lucky
I run my own business, but at the time my head's like, I just want to live in America and play football. If I get a degree, that's cool. But I'd say business and sports science are the most popular. And I think particularly with Access, most of our athletes have done a sports related course. So then that leans quite well towards that. But again, what's great with Access, I know you've got loads of media, creative programs as well. And that leans itself well to America too. One thing I loved about the American system is it's hugely flexible. And again, it's kind of weird and embarrassing that I don't really know the UK system that well, but my understanding is you do a 3-year course and you're pretty much told what courses to take, and it's quite formulaic in how that looks like. In America, they basically say you've got to pass these classes in 4 years, take them when you want.
Wow, really? Okay.
So like my head was like, I'm going to take the more difficult classes in year 1 while I'm still motivated to do so.
Well, that's a great tactic.
Yeah, and get on top of it. So my actual 4th year, I was only in class 2 days a week and then just playing football every day, because I managed to work that workload effectively for me.
That's a real effective way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I just stayed in America during the summer, took summer classes, so I had fewer classes to take during the season. So, but again, we can provide guidance like that. But I thought that was always quite cool. So you could take like 6 more difficult classes during season, and then maybe 4 perceived easier one. I took some ridiculous. I took the American history of jazz, because that was meant to be an easy A, and American history of baseball. So
well, I guess that links to the sport thing, doesn't it? So now if maybe someone wants to do baseball, you're qualified to talk about it because you know the history.
I got an A, but I don't know how. But I tell you what, I remember I lived with a guy from Liverpool, and I was taking American history of jazz. It's bad enough I'm watching a DVD about jazz. I came home one day and he's watching it and he's not even taking the class. I was like, Dave, what are you doing? He's like, oh, well, there's nothing on the TV. I was like, so you thought you'd watch the history of jazz? I was like, you should probably just take the class next semester because you already watched.
He's like, no, I'm all right just watching this.
Yeah, so that was a strange one.
And this is kind of a bit of a step back, but I want to get your thoughts on this, because this might be good for anyone who maybe would go down your route, even if they go on a scholarship with yourself. And talk to me about the kind of the beginning stages of you founding your company and what that was like, because it's a massive step. Starting a business and a business that has the scale to be what yours is now. Yeah. Talk to me about that, like that step.
I think the reason why we've had a relative amount of success is because when we started the business, it wasn't money orientated, which sounds really strange, but we thought we can't play anymore. It'd be cool to still stay in the industry, and we weren't even set on doing this. We just thought, what's unique about us that not everyone has done? Well, straight away, we've all been to America on a scholarship. Okay, cool. We've also all had bad experiences using companies that were meant to help us. So it didn't take us long to figure, it wasn't a eureka moment. Wait, hang on a minute. So we're like, okay, well, let's look at what we could do here. But again, we were just like, this is a fun hobby in that, as we're friends, we get to stay together, work on something. We get to go into football clubs. We get to watch football. We were like, this is cool. I think year 1, we signed 3 athletes. And I said we've placed over 3,000 now. So it's definitely grown from that. But what I would say to anyone listening, if they want to start their own business, I'm definitely not Richard Branson, was that I was having to grow the business while having a full-time job until getting to the point where it financially made sense for me. So I'm risk adverse. I go to Vegas twice a year. I'm not gambling. Like, I am risk adverse, and I would only do that once I felt comfortable with that. So again, I think a lot of people see get rich schemes and think, especially because of social media, like, oh, I'm going to do that. I've just, I don't know, use these affiliate links, and now they sent me to Florida. Like, okay, cool. Like, the people that start those things do well. When you're number 1,000 to 200 who's getting on that quick, get rich scheme, that's probably not going to work. So I think find your niche, be passionate about it, and then everything else will kind of take care of itself, which again is so American.
It's the passion thing, isn't it? Because I think, as you say, people want to get rich quick, and they focus on, right, here's my niche. Yeah. They focus on, like, I don't know, I feel like there's that end goal. There's like, I feel like glorified 10K a month. Yeah. People are like, right, what's my niche? It's all gold at that, rather than what you're doing, where your goal is to save people the journey you went on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great formula.
Yeah, that was the core of it. But then, look, as we grow, of course, like when you've got employees and salaries and pensions, and like then you need to be a bit more of a grown up about it than run it as a hobby. But we just felt like, okay, this definitely has legs because we're getting good feedback from our services. So then we just naturally look to grow it. And as I said, we started as football, and then over time we've added more sports, but only when we've got the relevant people in place who are specialists in that. I still don't feel like it's work. Like genuinely, like I love it, and it's so sad because they're like, "What's your hobby?" It kind of is this. My wife's not happy about that, by the way, because she'll be like, "You're still working." It's like I am, but like I don't play golf. I don't still play football. I don't drink. I don't do like. Not that it's like, oh wow, I'm having the best time of my life constantly, but it is my passion. It's what I love doing. I'm never sitting there thinking, oh, I've got to do another. I'm not like at 5:30 putting my laptop down and going that. Well, because of the time difference, actually, that's when you start getting calls from American coaches. Unfortunately for me, but I think that's maybe been key to being able to drive it. Is that like I love it. So America's given me that, to be honest. Like I don't know what I'd have been doing. So before I went to America, I was playing Step 4, working in Specsavers, coaching at Ipswich, which was all cool. But I personally didn't want to be doing that for the rest of my life. So America's, got a business degree, started a business. So I genuinely don't know what I'd have been doing if I hadn't have had that opportunity.
How far do you think the business degree helped? Because I mean, I've spoken to friends before and they're taking business degrees and it's like, and I've said, what are you taking it for? And they're like, I don't know, I'm just taking it. Do you know what I mean? So like, how far did that actually help you? Because if obviously maybe you didn't plan to necessarily start a business, but you did.
Yeah.
So how far did that go? Do you think that?
Yeah, it's a weird one. My dad did his MBA and he's a businessman. And so probably always part of me thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the school I went to was actually an architecture and engineering college. And I was like, I'm not smart enough to be doing that. So I was like, what else have you got? Business, cool, let's go for that one. So literally, I think it was so laid back about it. I did a specialization in marketing, which I actually do think really helped me. The school I was at was quite academic, but what I kind of liked about the school, which may be different to the UK system, it wasn't like here's your textbook, learn it, quizzes. We would have real life businesses come in and you would help them for a semester on their project. So already I had 4 years of helping small businesses trying to grow, but never thinking I'm going to start my own business, if that makes sense. So I personally got so much out of US university. I then came back and did my master's degree and actually found my master's degree 10 times easier than my undergraduate. I found that was quite like learn the stuff, do the essay. Like I don't really feel like I got much out of it other than maybe networking because you're meeting with like-minded people on the course. Whereas the undergraduate for me, I remember week 1, because again, you got to think, I'm just like, I'm going to be a footballer. I like did the bare minimum on the education. I was playing FIFA and then someone's like, have you done the homework for tomorrow? And I was like,
there's homework for tomorrow?
I was like, there's homework? I was like, I thought we just did exams at the end of the year. And so like for me, I was like, whoa, I need to get my butt into gear here. Yeah. And I managed to get straight A's for 4 years after. So like that was an early kick in the butt, probably good timing. And then I was just fully laser focused in on it. And then, it's a lot of hours. But then when I look back, I think I got loads of it because I was actually doing that transition from being I'm going to be a footballer to I'm not going to be a footballer. And I'm quite an addictive personality. So before I was all in on football from when I woke up to when I went to sleep. So I think I just started doing that with studying, and then I've just then brought that into the business. So again, the great thing for all the access students is within that football environment, there's so much skill set that you're going to have from having played. I'm sure you've had that from hockey as well and football from a young age. That's going to help you in your job. Yeah,
I think being able to. I think most, especially with me, it was very much like I used to train on Tuesday nights. Yeah. When I was younger, it was like Sundays, but when I was in men's team, it was like Tuesday nights. Yeah. Play Saturdays. So you're giving up part of your week. Yeah. Later on, 7 till 9, it's 2 hours. Then you're going to have to really, when you come home, then you got work the next day. So you're going to have to go to sleep pretty much as soon as you get in. Yeah. Which is then for some people, when they finish mostly at 5, that's their rest. Yeah. So you're giving up part of that. Yeah. And then you're giving up part of the weekend, which a lot of people treasure. Yeah. They treasure this weekend thing. But one thing that I always thought was like, I don't really want to be so obsessed over this weekend thing. Like even if I'm in a lot of my things like football and sports, and a lot of those games can be on the weekend. So sometimes I've had to work weekends. Yeah. So not being so obsessed with this is when I have a break. Yeah. Bank holiday Mondays. I don't really know what half the time what they're for. So I'll work them. Yeah. And I'm sure that's like with yourself. And I think for anyone who's watching this, who's wanting to potentially get a scholarship in the US, and they see that you are really driven and love what you do, it's so encouraging, isn't it? To like, it makes you feel a little bit more like, he's actually invested in what he's doing anyway, so he's gonna help me.
Yeah. No, I think so. And again, I never thought I'd say this looking back at myself when I was younger, but without sounding like one of the teachers at the colleges, is that so when we're chatting to coaches, they care about three things. Number one, well, how good is the player? That's pretty important
Yeah.
across all sports. But also academically, what are they like? So if I've got two players with the same ability, I will pick the one who's got the better grades. And that's not to dishearten anyone who's listening who's not academic, because if you're a good player, we'll still be able to get you a school. But you would qualify for more academic scholarship. So then me as a coach has to give up less of my athletic scholarship to make it work for you financially. Which then the third point is, how much budget have you got? So if somebody's like, we can literally afford nothing, the challenge you've got is, because thousands of kids want to go to America, you're up against, if you've got similar grades and ability, they'll go for the one that has. And it's not about buying yourself a place into it. But again, we're not here to, people listen to this and go, oh, I'm going to earn millions being an influencer out there and I'm going to be paying nothing for it. Like, no, you probably are. But again, if you do well, you will get rewarded for it. So like year one is normally the most expensive. If you go in there and deliver what you can, they can reward you with more. They don't have to give it to new athletes. Because you got to think from a coach's perspective, year one's the most risky. If you've never played in America before and I'm giving you a scholarship to come and play for me, I've never seen you play in person, which is, it still blows my mind as well. Yeah.
That's a big thing, isn't it? I mean, proving yourself. We spoke before, obviously, about the best players are the ones that, no matter when you give the ball to them, whatever point in the game it is, they are locked in, focused, and they will often do the same sort of moves, but they're just really effective.
Yeah.
So staying with that, having a lot of pressure on you, right? This first year is imperative to my future.
Yeah.
Some people will crumble under that and go, oh God, I don't really know whether I can do that, or every day staying consistent with it. Because I saw this this graphic. This is the one good side of social media. You see these like motivational graphics. And I saw this graphic and I had, I think I had about 5 cups like this size. And it said consistency isn't, and it had all of them filled up to the same amount. That's not consistency. Consistency is, and it had all filled, but just to different levels. Sometimes you're not going to have the greatest training session. Sometimes you're not going to have the greatest day. Things might not be going well for you. But the whole point of it is that you just put in the reps.
I think the key word you said there is consistency. Like even with America, it's a 4-year degree and it's 4 seasons. So maybe you're not, Ballon d'Or, or, every single game. But if you're consistent over those 4 years, well, you'll get your degree, which is the most important thing. You are a student athlete and the student part comes first for a reason. And then obviously, if you stay injury free, I don't see how you don't become a better player, training twice a day, eating right in unbelievable facility. So at the end of the 4 years, worst case scenario is you come out a better player and you've got a degree. So it's, again, biased, but it's a no-brainer for me what the opportunity can give you.
Talk to me a little bit about what it's like leading a team. We talk about pressure. That's a massive thing. A business owner, a founder. What's that like for you? Maybe kind of compare it to the early days. Obviously, but you had co-founders with you, but compare it to where you were to where you are now leading that team. What's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel really lucky that it just comes down to people, and I'm lucky that the team that we have are unbelievable. But what I would say is we all have very similar work ethic, attitude, a desire to succeed and ambition, but we also still want to have fun doing so as well. So I think, for me, my role managing the company is made a lot easier just by the people that we have in place. From when we started, though, it's quite different because at the start we're just friends doing something for a bit of fun and a hobby, whereas now, obviously, we're a serious business, but we still try and keep the ethos that we had at the start to today. And I think through our model of being quite selective, we'll always be able to keep that. Now, look, we are a business, so now we are wanting to grow, but that's why by keeping the roughly 50 model, but adding more sports, we're still able to keep that. So, and then the tours is a nice element that complements it. So I don't think we've moved too far away from what the core vision was or the goal for the business. And it's hard, but if you recruit good people, then everything becomes a lot easier. So I know I've said so many cheesy things on this, but like it is just good people. And for us, like when we're recruiting new people, it's just purely cultural fit. I mean, everyone has been to America on a scholarship. That helps. So that's quite a niche. If I put a LinkedIn job ad out, that does rule out a lot of right. That rules out most people. But then, like even at the uni I was at, there would be career fairs just for the athletes. And a lot of companies want to recruit kids that are playing sport as well as their studies because you're good at time management. You're disciplined, you're dedicated, you're sociable, you're competitive. So I just think like with the program you guys have got here, with the tours you're doing, the resources that you guys have access to, how professional it's run, and that's why you're such a phenomenal partner for us, is the students coming out of Access are definitely prepared to go to America, because they're out of their comfort zone, they're visiting different cultures, they're coming together with different players. So that's
They've
what...
got the foundations, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. Like you had that 2 years to prepare yourself for it. And then if you weave in us maybe coming in to speak at the start of that journey, you're also getting the information you need. So, but yeah, like what I would say is anyone listening to this, I'm not expecting people to, because I haven't like delved into granular detail of it. That's what we're here to do. If anyone wants a video call with me or anyone in the team, like, you know, we're free to do so whenever. Obviously technology's developed a lot since I went out as well.
It has been amazing talking to you and learning about your journey. It's been a long journey. I think there's a lot still to come. One final thing I'd like to touch on, which I think is really important. I think someone asked me this a while ago, actually, and even though I'm still really young, it still helped me kind of realise a couple of things.
Yeah.
If you were to be sat across from 20-year-old Liam, just going out, what would you say to him?
That's a good question. To be honest, like I don't have massive regrets, because I've always been a believer like everything happens kind of for I probably didn't feel that when my knee went for the 4th time when I was at Ipswich, but I think maybe because I'd had that kind of shock moment of I thought my life was planning out like this and now it isn't, because I feel like I readjusted myself. I then felt a lot more open-minded to be like, well, there is life outside of Ipswich town, but also there's life outside of Ipswich, for example. So I think looking back at it, I wouldn't really tell myself to do anything. Maybe don't study too much. You are still a college athlete. Like, still have fun. I probably took that too seriously. To be honest, I'd have probably tried to start my business while I was out in America as well. So maybe start a bit earlier. But no, I honestly don't think I've got too many regrets. But look, don't get me wrong, I've also made so many business mistakes in the last 15 years.
Well, you need to make them, don't you?
Yeah, kind
well,
of.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? So like, like if I look back, I'd have done things way differently. But I think the challenge was switching the mentality from running it as a hobby to then running it as a business. But I think if I wouldn't have ran it as a hobby to begin with, it might not have evolved into a business. So look, the beauty of today is you could chuck up a website and say you do whatever, but actually what people don't see is the 10-15 years of hard work to make it into a business. So maybe the only advice I'd say is like, be patient. I'm not very patient, which a lot of people are guilty of as well, is they want like instant results. Just maybe trust the process and just be a bit patient. Because I think even when I did graduate, obviously I hadn't started the business at the time, I'm then felt like I'm resetting, okay, well now I haven't got the identity of being a college athlete. So I lost the identity of being a footballer, I've lost the identity of being a college athlete, and then it's almost going through that same difficult transition period. And then thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do now. But I think what was, looking back, I did kind of well, is just followed what I enjoyed. And I think that would probably be the advice, is carry on doing that.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I don't regret retiring. I was not great when I came back. Knees were shot to
Really?
bits. So,
Yeah.
like in America, playing 20 games a year, I can handle that. When I come back, I think I was like a month in, I was like, I've got 50 more games this year. I was like, no, I'm absolutely done. So it's not even like I felt like I didn't act on what I wanted to do, but yeah, maybe just be a little bit more patient with things.
I think the beauty of it as well is you can just say to yourself, you don't really need to say much.
Yeah.
Just enjoy.
Yeah.
Everything's all going to be good.
Yeah.
You're going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And just, as you say, trust the process.
Yeah. Oh, maybe one thing, hopefully my friends don't go into business with friends. No, I'm still friends with them. But yeah, if you're going to start a business, advice, sometimes don't, or like family, maybe try and separate the two. But that's not always the case that it works. But if ever things do become challenging, or just be able to know that those two things are quite separate, right? So if me and you are in business together and we work together, if we're then like going to the pub and having drinks, or we're playing a football team, then maybe separate the two a little. Actually, that's what I'm really bad at. My advice would be like, have a better work-life balance.
Yeah. That's
but
great
I'm
advice.
still not. I still don't learn to
You
this
still don't
day.
do it,
So
yeah.
maybe in 20.
So maybe your advice to you now?
Yeah,
is
when
just,
I'm 50, I'll look back. Yeah, Liam's just stop working all the time.
There we go. Well,
Yeah.
Liam, listen, it has been absolutely amazing talking to you. You've got
Appreciate it.
a great journey. You've got a great company that we all believe, Access obviously all believe in. And I think a lot of people around the UK are really going to find some great power and involvement from what you're doing out in the US. So it's been great talking to you. And
Appreciate it.
thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully we'll have a new exciting guest like Liam soon. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.